Hi guys, I'm Amy and welcome to my podcast Spill the Teeth, where I spill the tea on all things dentistry and a bunch of other fun things. Welcome to the second episode. Now, as you know, I like to start this off by doing a week in review, telling you guys what I've been up to during the week in dental school. Let's get started. So, in removable partial dentures, or RPD, we started working on guide planes, reciprocal planes, and rest seats. So, for everyone watching and listening, you know that I'm working on removable partial dentures, a class 2 Kennedy with a modification space of 1. So, guide planes and reciprocal planes really help different parts of the RPD sit on the teeth, and they require very specific paths of direction, or as we call them, paths of insertion. So we did that, and we did rest seats where parts of the RPD will sit and help with stability and support. These were difficult because these aren't like operative preps like MODs or DOs or fixed preps where we're doing prepping crowns. These are a little bit different, so anything new is going to be hard. So me and probably some of my other classmates, I know, especially me in particular, struggled with getting the guide planes in the right path of insertion and then trying to get the rest seats in a typical outline shape that they should be. But you know what? I'm still working on it. I'm going to be working on them over the weekend. In endo, we did molar accesses, both handheld and mounted on the dentiform. So over the weekend, I was in lab and I got the teeth mounted in the dentiform. So now it's just a really crazy setup, but it's basically a bunch of random natural teeth mounted with plaster in a dentiform, and we practice our endo accesses in there. So if I can figure out how to overlay a picture on this for people who are watching on YouTube, I will. I had a picture of one of the mandibular incisors that I was practicing access on, and it just looks really weird having that one natural tooth, isolated with the rubber dam on. But you know what? We got through it. I got through it, and I got through the handheld molar preps, or the handheld molar accesses, and I started doing the anterior accesses mounted that I couldn't do prior because I didn't have the teeth mounted. The big thing for this week was the operative practical and exam. So an operative, you know that I've been talking about the number 2 and number 3 back-to-back amalgam restoration. This week we finally put those skills to the test, and me and my class had to do it timed in 2 hours. That's how long that we get in the practical. And then we had the written exam portion after that. So for the operative practical, we had already prepped these preps that we had to fill with amalgam prior because we had to get them signed off. And so we got those back, and then at the start at 8 a.m., we started to fill them with amalgam. So for the practical, when it started, I usually set up everything ahead of time, so I got there around 7 in the morning, and then get all my instruments set up that I knew that I would need, my condenser, my amalgam well, my amalgam, and all my burnishers that I would need, the retainer and band. And then I set those up, and then we get our teeth back, which we screw into our dentiform. We place our dentiform into our mannequin and shroud, and then we had to isolate number 2 and 3 with the rubber dam, and then fill them. So I always listen to certain music when I do practicals because we are allowed to have headphones on. I know that would not happen clinically, but pre-clinically we are allowed to listen to our own music. So I usually listen to a group called Two Steps from Hell. My dad calls it my devil music, probably because it's called Two Steps from Hell, but it's a joint group with Thomas Bergerson and Nick Phoenix, who unfortunately decided to part ways. But I still have all their music that I've saved onto Spotify, and so I listen to my own Two Steps playlist. And I don't really know why I listen to that certain group, other than that I really like their music. but also I find it distracting if I listen to music with lyrics, because if I know the song, I'm more likely to sing along, and I kind of have to focus during an operative practical. So I usually listen to music, if it's not two steps, then it's music that doesn't have lyrics to it. Unless, however, it is the Spirit soundtrack. I probably will talk about music that I like in a later episode, but if you know anything about me, you should know that I really love Hans Zimmer and I love the soundtrack to Spirit. So after I have all my music and all my stuff set up and I'm starting the practical, then I started filling number 3 first, because most of the professors wanted us to start with the most anterior prep to fill, although some other professors say there are advantages to starting with the most posterior tooth, like gravity, but I have always started with number 3, so I wasn't going to change anything, so I started with number 3. Now, I don't usually have problems condensing the amalgam into the prep, so we use a tool to carry the amalgam from the amalgam well into the prep, and then we condense it. We have to condense it down really hard so that there are no voids. So I fill that as normal, and the most difficult part I have with amalgam, other than I like amalgam, the most difficult part is forming the marginal ridges, because we have to have them equal to the marginal ridge of the adjacent tooth, and we have to make sure that it cleanly goes into the slopes and ridges and planes and whatnot that are next to our prep. But since I started with number 3 first, and it didn't have anything to match 2 because number 2 is not filled, you kind of have to just base it off of the slopes that are coming from either side of your proximal box. But thank goodness the marginal ridge went well on number 3, and I took off the band and no amalgam flew out, and then I was off to fill number 2. So I was a little bit nervous about number 2 just because of, well, the marginal ridge, like I talked about in number 3, but also because the night before I had attempted a practice of this amalgam restoration and it did not go well, which I attribute to being just too tired and mentally drained. But that was kind of still in the back of my head, having just completely not had a good marginal ridge the day before. So number 2, I kind of kept it slow and was like, okay, I'd rather have it overfilled than underfilled, and then I can kind of scrape it away if I need to. So by going slow and everything, I was really able to form that marginal ridge on 2 that was equal to the height of the marginal ridge on number 3, and that it wasn't underfilled to the slopes that were on the edges of my proximal box. The most nerve-wracking, or one of the most nerve-wracking parts, is taking that band off number 2 and hoping nothing flies out, because if something flies out, you're going to be drilling out amalgam and then replacing it. But thankfully, I took it out, I had a proximal contact, and everything looked pretty good. My marginal ridges were the same height, which is good because that could be a food trap in somebody's actual mouth, and then the contact has to be able, not only has to be there, so the teeth have to be touching so you don't have food impaction, but you also have to be able to floss through it and have it not shred, because if it shreds, it means your amalgam is not smooth in the proximal contact areas. So I had to do a little wedging and smoothing to get floss to actually snap through, but at the end it snapped through and I was able to burnish. Burnish is something where you are pressing really hard on the amalgam with certain tools, and it also serves to kind of shine it up a little bit, although the final polish wouldn't happen until 24 hours later. But since we are only doing a practical for 2 hours, we don't come back the day later to polish it, so burnishing is our only real way to get it as shiny as we can possibly get it to. So after that, making sure everything is set and good and shiny, then I took the dental dam off and took out the dentiform from the mannequin and shroud. And obviously for our practical, we are not allowed to unscrew any teeth during the practical, and if we take the dentiform out of the mannequin and shroud, that means we're done, we can't put it back. So you have to really make sure that you're good and done before you can take the dentiform out of the mannequin, because you can't put it back in. And I thought, for me, especially comparing it to the night before, that number 2 and 3 went really well. The marginal ridges were intact, they were adjacent to each other and in the right places. I had nice contact, everything was smooth. I think for me, just looking at it, if I were to self-critique it, and remember that can be a dangerous thing for me, but self-critiquing it, number 2 could have been a little bit more shiny, I guess, so I would have had to burnish it more, but I didn't realize that until I took it out of the mouth and took a picture of it, and I was like, oh, number 3 is a lot shinier than number 2, but I wasn't going to touch it after I took it out of the mouth. The other thing was that there was a couple of places where I think I burnished too hard and was trying to create too much anatomy that I kind of nicked the amalgam. If you took an Explorer and ran across the transition from actual tooth, I was going to say natural tooth, but it's not a natural tooth, but the plastic tooth that wasn't part of the prep and the amalgam, there was a slight catch, which means that I kind of pulled too much amalgam off while burnishing, and the amalgam didn't quite meet the tooth flush. So clinically that would be bad because it can cause food to get trapped in there. If it's a sharp transition, then your patient's tongue, if they run their tongue over it, it can get caught. But other than that, I think it went really well, and I was feeling pretty confident after, which is not something I can say often after practicals. Usually I'm like a nervous wreck and I'm like, oh my gosh, I did 20 things wrong. But this one I was like, okay, I could have done it better, obviously, but I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. The next thing after the practical was the written portion, so we have to go to a different building to do that because it's not in our lab building. And guys, let me tell you, it was not a great exam. It was less than ideal, let me tell you. Our professor in operative is really into thinking outside the box and not just data dumping, so not just memorizing little facts and being able to be like, oh, amalgam does this, or it's made up of what percent elemental mercury or whatever, but more like clinical situations, things that you would see on the boards and things that you would have to think about when you're working in the clinic on real patients. And sometimes big picture is hard for me to think about because, I mean, everyone's good at data dumping. We're really good at memorizing facts and being able to regurgitate them. But we kind of lose the forest for the trees, that we lose sight of the fact that these little things add up to a big picture, and we have a hard time seeing what that big picture is. So I really struggled with the written portion of the exam and did not do well, but thankfully, there was a curve, and the curve was advantageous for me. It really goes to show that I have to work on not just memorizing things because that, you can't get away from memorizing certain things, but kind of expanding my view on what operative is and being able to think critically through different situations that our professors give us so that we can use our critical thinking into providing the best treatment for our patients who are going to be different. It's not going to be a perfect, oh, a number 2 and number 3. It could be like, well, this person has caries that go subgingivally, or this patient has caries that you could do a conservative prep on, and things like that. So moving into the hot and nots of the week, you can definitely tell the not was the operative exam for me. So the written exam was the not. It was just, I got my grade back right at the end, which is sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing, but some professors set ExamSoft or Examplify, I don't know what exam software that you may use at your school, but some of the professors set it to where it gives you your raw score back at the end, and it's only good if you do a good job on the exam. Then you're like, oh, nice, I did a good job. But if you do really bad, which I did, then it's not fun to see, and it kind of ruins your whole day. But the hot for the week was the operative practical, which I didn't think that I was going to be saying because I don't usually enjoy practicals, but this one I felt really confident going into, and I felt confident after I was done doing it. So it just goes to show you that the practical, like the hand skill part of a class, can be vastly different than the didactic or lecture part of that class. But I can't complain about the way the operative written exam went because it was really my bad. Not that I just focused mainly on data dumping, because I did know this professor like big picture questions, but I kind of missed the mark. So it was really my fault. I can't be like, well, this professor is just out to trick us. And, sometimes I do think that professors are out to trick you, but, I should have known better, I guess, and prepared more. So now that I have that out of the way, my week in review, I want to stay a little bit adjacent to dentistry. So sorry about people who wanted to get away from this dentistry, but I wanted to comment on a reel that I recently made on my Instagram at Teeth and Crowns. So if you follow me there, you know I recently made a reel, and the visual is me doing lab work, and the caption overlaid onto that video said, if dental school was any easier, it'd be called med school. And oh boy, it sparked a fury in the med school community. And just to be clear, as some comments pointed out, it was a rage bait, and it 100% was. If you look at my hashtags, I did tag med school, med students, medicine, whatever. And I kind of wanted it to be, not really I'm poking fun at them, because in all honesty, guys, I don't care about the med school, dental school debate. I know people are like, well, this is harder and this is harder. If you read my caption, and many people who had watched the reel had not read the caption, clearly, but if you read the caption, I said that both are hard in their own ways, and neither of us really want to be the other person. I don't want to walk a mile in med student shoes, and med students don't want to walk a mile in dental school student shoes. I just had fun making it, and if you follow me, if you're listening to this, you know that I'm a dental student, so I cater to the dental student and dentistry side of Instagram, so I knew that they would find that funny, the dental students, and I also knew it would make the med students angry, because med students always believe that med school is harder, and of course, there are things in there that makes it 100 times harder than dental school, but dental school also has things in it that makes it 100 times harder than medical school. So I was originally planning on just highlighting some of the unhinged comments that I got, but I kind of thought, let's do something fun with it. You know what? I like ranking things. I get graded on things in dental school, so why don't we grade/rank some of the comments? And before people get upset, I just want to say that these comments are not indicative of all the med students. Of course, obviously, my best friend is a med student, and she is one of the most kindest people I know, and when we talk about things, we're not comparing what school is harder. We're just saying, oh, this is what I did, and this is hard, and this is what I did, and this is hard too. But we're never stuck in a heated debate on which school is harder. We honestly just don't care. So again, this is not indicative of the whole med school, med student community. There are a bunch of lovely people on Instagram that are wonderful people, and this is not a reflection on the dental students either, even though I'm going to highlight most of the comments that I'm sure were made from the medical side of Instagram. But there are ugly people on both the dental school side and the med school side, and the ugly people came out. Ugly as in figuratively, not literally, because some of these I can't see their profiles and I don't really care about what they look like, but there's that. There's my disclaimer. So for this ranking, I'm going to basically grade these comments based on 5 categories. So each one is going to have 1 point associated with it, and you can either get that point or you don't get that point. So our first category is going to be for creativity. Is this comment creative, or is it just like, oh, lol, you're dumb, that kind of thing? So if you have creative points, you get 1. If you don't, it's a 0. So that's how it's going to work. The second category is going to be for grammar. I am really nitpicky on grammar, and I don't think Instagram should be an excuse for people to have poor grammar. So if you have good grammar, I'm going to give you a point. If you don't have good grammar, I'm going to give you 0 points. I know, kind of flip-flop, because the worst one should have more points, but it's my ranking, and I gotta give them something. The third category is going to be what I am going to call burnability, which is like, if I was reading it and an outsider looking in, would I be like, oh snap, this person burned her good. So if you burned me, I would give you a 1. If you didn't, a 0. The fourth one is going to be emotion. And this can be like, this is mostly like anger, the emotion, but if you're like super sarcastic or whatever, you can get a point for that. So there's that. The fifth category is going to be overall reaction. So based on all these categories, what does the comment look like as a whole? Were they creative? Did they have good grammar, burnability, whatever? So overall, your comment can get a 1. and that will add up to the final points at the end. So I made this tier list. If you get points in all categories, you will be up on the S tier. That means you have 5 points. If you have 0 points, that means you're going to be on the F tier, or as I'm going to call it, remediation. You're going to have to remediate, sorry. And I pulled some of the comments. They're not all, obviously. I'm not going to go through all of them, but like the ones that were most recent, the ones that I saw, like one of the first ones I saw, or one of the lengthy ones, and they're all over here on the left. And since you obviously can't read those small things, I'll be reading them from my phone. I'll have them pulled up, and then we'll rank them based on the categories. And if you disagree with me, let me know on how you would rank these differently. So the first one I'm going to do is by Sarah_Noon_M, and this person said, LOL, you're Delulu. So, for creativity, this person's going to get a 0. It wasn't really creative. It's kind of like along the lines of LOL, you're dumb type of thing, and she did say LOL. So 0 points for creativity. The next category is going to be for grammar, and this person spelled your as you-are, and that is just going to be a 0. The LOL, I'm okay with LOL. I personally don't use it verbally, or I don't like to use it in text or typing, but that would have been fine, but the you are just, it irks me. So 0 for the grammar. The third category is burnability. It kind of fell flat. You know, the person didn't put a lot of effort into it, so 0 for burnability. The fourth category is emotion. It was a very mild comment, so this person is going to get a 0 on the emotion scale. So overall, I have no overall reaction to it. I've seen better hate comments, to be honest. Overall, Sarah_Noon_M, you are going to get a 0. So, I'm sorry, you're going to have to remediate. So, let me find her comment. Here it is. And then we're going to put it in F. So, F is also a failing grade. So, thus, remediation. Okay, our second comment is from ZZZ Maxime. And this person says, how the F can you have an opinion while you have only done dental school? How can you have an opinion on medical school if you've never attended it? As someone who I think this person meant to say as someone who is a link between dental school and medical school, I can assure you medical school is longer and 10 times harder than dental school, not even close. Okay, a lot to unpack there. First of all, let's grade it on creativity. It wasn't really creative, but this person obviously spent a lot of time on it, so I'm gonna give them the 1 point for creativity. For grammar, obviously, as you can tell, as someone who is a link, that means they're going to get a 0 for grammar. I don't think Instagram is an excuse to have poor grammar, so 0. The third category is going to be burnability, and it wasn't really a burn, per se. I wouldn't have considered it a burn, not even unbiased, but so 0 points for burnability. Our fourth category is emotion. How was this on an emotional scale? Well, I guess you could have read this as someone who is like really hot to trot. They obviously did a lengthy comment, but I'm not gonna really give this person a 1. I think it could have been more emotional, honestly. And remember, we're looking for the most unhinged comments to get on this S tier. So, it's gonna be a 0 for me on the emotion scale. And then we have overall reaction. Overall reaction, I mean, it was a lot to read, but honestly, I have no reaction to it. So they get a 1, and that was only for creativity, and that was only because of the length of it. So this is a comment over there. Fortunately, they don't have to remediate, but they are going to be on the D tier. Okay, the third comment I want to highlight is from Jake Richardson 82, who says, the professors at my medical school have told us in lecture that they have to dumb things down significantly when they lecture to the dental students, LMAO. Okay, so creativity, I'm gonna give this person a 0 because it's kind of ignorant in a way that, I mean, I've had professors who also teach at med school, and they tell me the opposite thing, which is what I told this person in my comment, who I responded back to. So, 0 for creativity. You know, if you're gonna try and burn us, you're gonna have to try harder. So grammar, the grammar was actually fine. So grammar, they're gonna get a point for that. Burnability, again, the burn falls short because it doesn't hold true. So maybe in other schools, but in my school that doesn't hold true. So they're gonna get a 0 on burnability. So the fourth category is emotion. I don't see any like real emotion behind this one. It was more like a ha ha ha, look at me make this comment. So they're gonna get a 0 on the emotion scale. And then for overall reaction, it was a fairly mild comment. I didn't really react when I read it. I just kind of thought it was funny because I had professors say that about the med students. So this person is going to get a 1, and that was basically only for grammar. So Jack Richardson, where are you? You're going to be put on the D tier. So you don't have to remediate, thank goodness, but you know, you really wanted to be up on the S tier. Okay, the next comment is going to be from StoneArthur_31, who says, this is giving med school reject vibes. And kudos to you. Creativity points, you get a 1. Because this is creative. Now this, guys, pay attention to this one. This is being creative because you're implying that I applied to medical school, which I did not. Did not have any desire to be a medical student. Wanted to do dentistry. That is why I'm here. But you know, it's creative, it's to the point. So yes, you get a point for creativity. Grammar, good grammar, so you get a point there. And burnability, yes, I like it. Even though I personally wasn't burned by it, I could see from an outsider's point of view, someone would be like, oh my gosh, she got her good. Emotion-wise, it wasn't really heated. I think this person was fairly mild in their comment, so you don't get a point for the emotion part of it, so that's going to be a 0. Overall reaction, though, I like it. I like the comment. It was short and to the point. I'm sure other people thought that was a vicious burn. As of when I took this screenshot, 618 agreed with this person. So yeah, you get 4 points. You lose out on the emotion. You could have been more emotional when you did this, but you know, that's good for you. You are on the A tier. So let's find you and put you on the A tier. Good for you. You don't have to remediate, but you know, you almost had an S tier type comment. So let's move on. Okay, the next one is TryFan54, who says, you can't go both way. You literally wrote shots fired, meaning deep down you want to be not inferior. And yeah, they are different in many ways, but I hope there is some way that can soothe your insecurity. I kind of want to just read this whole conversation that I had with this person because I think it really feeds to the whole story about who this person is. I said, it's really not that deep because, again, I made it as a joke. If you watched any of my reels, I am constantly poking fun of STEM and dentistry. And the person replied, believe me, it is, and it's gonna stick. Seek help. Okay, so creativity. I'm gonna give this person a 1. It was a creative comment. They responded to my response. So, therefore, you get a 1. Unfortunately, you fall short in the grammar category. Your first sentence is, you can't go both way. I think you meant to say you can't go both ways. You didn't capitalize your I, so it's going to be a 0 for the grammar. So the next category is burnability. On the outside looking in, I could see how this could be a burn. Honestly, I don't have an insecurity about dental school, whether it is or is not harder than medical school. Again, I don't care. I made it as a reel, and there it stands. So you get a 0 on the burnability. The emotion scale, I think I'm gonna give this person a 1 because they deeply believed that I needed to soothe my insecurity that they thought that I had and that I needed to seek help. So they're obviously very invested in this. They are in, honestly, I feel cared for. Like, this person cares about me, that they think that I need to seek help about it, which I don't because, again, I don't care. But, you know, overall, emotion-wise, you get a point. But the overall reaction, I'm gonna give a 0. Again, it says, I think your comment says more about you than me. So you get a 3. So that's not bad. You currently fall in the B tier. but again, it's not quite S tier, but you also don't have to remediate. So good job, TryFan54. Let's see where your comment is, and then we will put you on the B tier. Perfect. Okay, the next comment is JFM907. So you can't really compare unless you've done both. That said, how hard can it be to clean teeth? Okay, so for creativity, I'm gonna give you a 0. It's not really creative. It's more ignorant because dentists don't just clean teeth. There's a whole separate job for that. So the ignorance is showing and you get a 0 for creativity. Grammar-wise, you did pretty well with grammar, so I'm gonna give you a 1 on that. The next category is burnability. I really think they thought that they ate with that, as the youth say nowadays. Like, haha, they only clean teeth. Okay, if you do your research, then you would know. So you're gonna get a 0 on the burnability. Emotion-wise, pretty mild statement, so I'm gonna give you a 0 on the emotion side. Overall reaction, I'm gonna also give you a 0. It was a pretty mild comment. I thought it was kind of funny, the ignorance that was showing through, but overall you get a 1, and that was only for grammar, so don't feel too good about yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna find you, and you're going to go on the D tier. So you don't have to remediate, but you were close to it. Okay, the next comment is from Schmutz_Thomas, who said, learn 32 teeth or every bone, muscle, nerve, arteries, veins, and every pathology linked to them. Okay, so creativity, this is also giving ignorance because we don't just learn about 32 teeth. Of course, that is our scope. The teeth are our scope and everything connected to it in the mouth, but we also learn about the whole body as well. I mean, I was in A&P for 2 semesters, and I did cadaver lab, I have done systemic pathology, so you're gonna get 0 on the creativity. Grammar-wise, this person is gonna get a 0 because they did not put commas when they were doing the list. So when they're saying every bone, muscle, nerve, arteries, veins, there were no commas, so you're gonna get a 0. Burnability, you are also gonna get a 0 because I'm pretty sure you thought you ate with that, and as of the time that I had taken this screenshot, 336 people also thought you ate with that and were also wrong, so you're gonna get a 0 for the burnability. Emotion-wise, this was a pretty mild statement. I don't think there's any underlying emotion, like no anger or anything, just like, you know, like, I'll show them, they only learned this. So you're gonna get a 0. Overall, this person, I'm gonna also give a 0 overall. Again, fairly mild statement, 0 grammar, 0 creativity, so I'm sorry, Schmutz_Thomas, but you are going on the F tier, which means you have to remediate. So here's Schmutz Thomas, and he's going to be on the F tier, so remediation for sure. Okay, the next comment is from, I don't know how to pronounce this, Hareen Unche. So this person says, you're just mad because you aren't going to be a real doctor, laughing emoji. Creativity, it's gonna be a 0 because, in fact, I am gonna be a doctor. And, you know, you may think, well, dentists aren't real doctors, but in fact, they are. So you're gonna get a 0 for creativity. Our next part is grammar. This person did capitalize doctor, and in this instance, it wouldn't be capitalized. So, but you know what? I can look past that. So this person, you're gonna get a 1, but just barely on grammar. Third, burnability. Like some of the other comments, I think this person thought they ate with that. Haha, this person's not gonna be a real doctor when, in fact, and I am. Again, dentists are real doctors. So burnability is gonna be a 0. Okay, so the next one is emotion. Fairly mild statement. I didn't feel any underlying emotion on that, so I'm gonna do a 0 on the emotion scale, and overall reaction is also gonna be a 0. So person whose username I cannot pronounce, you are going to get 1 point, and that was for grammar, and only just, so don't feel too good about yourself, but you're gonna be on the D tier. So here this person is, they're gonna put on the D tier. Again, not quite remediation, but if you were in school, you would be getting an email and saying, we need to talk in my office hours, basically, because you're gonna fail soon. Okay, so the next comment is from Rahul_Parmanu, who says, it's funny how the doctors don't actually care and your comments are filled with dentists trying to justify themselves.
laughing face emoji. Okay, so creativity, if you had looked at the rest of the comments, and a lot of the comments are from angry med people, so I'm gonna give you a 0 on the creativity. For grammar, the grammar was good, I'll give you that. So the grammar is gonna be a 1 point for you. The next thing that I'm gonna grade this person on is burnability. Again, it just kind of fell flat, because if you had read the rest of the comments, you would understand that actually there's more med students trying to justify why med school is harder than dental school. So you're gonna get 0 for the burnability. Emotion, they threw in that laughing face emoji, but again, there wasn't really any strong emotions to it, so you're gonna get a 0 on the emotions part of it. Overall, it was a kind of boring comment. Again, we've seen better, so I'm gonna give you a 0. So that really only gets you 1 for grammar. Again, you're within the D tier, not quite remediating, but you're going to get an email. We're going to have to talk in office hours. So Rahul, you're going in the D tier. Okay, so our last one, even though these are here, they're actually just copies of other ones. But our last one is from Ariel.Mills, and this person says, stick to dealing with patient's mouth and let the big boys actually handle your patient's health. Oh wait, not even mouth, the grammar. What you gonna do if the uvula isn't midline? That's right, ... send them to us. Party face emoji, the smile with the sweating face. And I did look at this person's profile. I think this person is an OMFS. Dentists do go into OMFS, same as medical people also go into OMFS. There are 2 different tracks to do that. I'm not going to explain that because I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I do know that as a dentist, you can go into OMFS, and as a med student, you can also go into OMFS. But let's just grade this person on the criteria that I'm giving them. So creativity, I'm gonna give a 0 for creativity. There wasn't really anything that stood out to me like, oh my gosh, this is a truly unhinged statement. So yeah, you're gonna get a 0. For grammar, you're also going to get a 0. If you've looked at the comment, this person does use the abbreviation for patients, and so that is appropriate in this. Patient's health, as in health belongs to the patient, there was no apostrophe, so that's going to do a ding. Again, the person said, what you gonna do? I think you meant, what are you going to do? So again, a 0. And when they said, that's right, that didn't have an apostrophe either, so you really want to do an apostrophe when you're doing a contraction, which is a combination of 2 words. So that is, so that apostrophe S. You're welcome. So for grammar, it's going to be a 0 for me. Burnability, this is the one I'm really caught up on because, I mean, personally, I was not burned by this, and I wasn't burned by really any of the statements. But maybe somebody thought, like, oh, wow, he really ate with that. Like, that was a burn. But burnability-wise, I'm gonna give a 0. So the 4th category is emotion, and I would give this person a 1 on the emotional scale because this person is obviously really heated about, you know, that dentists are going to have to refer to OMFS if this person is in OMFS. Yeah, for overall, for emotion-wise, this person, I can feel a lot of emotion in this sentiment. So, you get a 1 for emotion. Overall reaction, fairly mild. I actually thought it was kind of funny that, so like, let the big boys handle your patient's health. I don't know what you really mean about the big boys. Like, somehow OMFS is better than dentistry. Obviously, OMFS, you have a lot more education than us because you chose to do that specialty, and good for you. But overall, reaction-wise, is going to be a 0. So the only thing that you're going to get is going to be for emotion, because obviously you're very passionate about what you do, and passionate that, you know, you are superior. All hail the superior OMFS people. And again, I'm not pointing out people who are going to be in OMFS or are in OMFS. I'm sure you're much lovelier than Ariel.Mills. So, and I love OMFS people. I think it's super interesting, but I wouldn't consider you guys the big boys. And I don't think a lot of people in OMFS would consider themselves as such either. unless you have a superiority complex, which this person might have. So you get a 1 for emotion-wise, so you're going to be in the D tier. So here you are, and you're going to be put into the D tier. So again, you don't have to remediate, but you're going to get an email from me that we have to meet and talk about your performance in class. Guys, I just realized I put somebody else into the A rank and not the person who did med school reject vibes, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of arranging here. So let's find the person who actually deserves to be in the A tier, which is Stone Arthur _31. So congratulations, Stone Arthur. You had the one that was most creative, there was good grammar in it, a good burn in an unbiased situation, not emotional by any chance, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but overall reaction was a solid performance. So good for you. Since I don't want to end this on a negative note, because all of these are quite negative, I want to highlight some of the better comments that I've seen on the post. So here we go. One of the comments that I found really nice was from Sinful_Sins, who said, LOL, I agree. I'm a med student and my friend is a dental student. Y'all are in the trenches. And yes, I feel like I'm in the trenches now. I've always felt like I was in the trenches, but again, med students are also in the trenches. So don't disregard what you're going through just because we're doing stuff too. And dental students, don't let med students put you down and make you think that the stuff that you're doing is inferior to them. You guys are just as important as the med students. Another was from Gina_Maria_03, who said, why can't med and dental students be friends like we're going through the same SHIT? Yes, I totally agree. And again, my best friend is a medical student and we get along just fine. And you know what? People on Instagram should also get along. And of course, this was done as a rage bait on my part. So yes, I am to blame. But again, it kind of showed the more ugly side of the people who associate with the medicine side of Instagram. But again, they are not all like that. 99.9% of the med people on Instagram are super nice, love their content, I watch their content, I follow people who are in the medical community, and I love them for it. So yes, let's all be friends, med students, dental students, farm students, vet students, every type of student. I think we can all get along because a lot of us will be colleagues when we graduate. And there are some people in this comment section who I will stay very far away from if I need anything from the medical community. But there are also people that, hey, this person is doing great work and they really care about their patients. And so those are the people I think we should highlight. The last comment I want to highlight is from Dr. Stark17. Looking at this person's profile, this person is part of the med community and is a neurologist, and he said, LMAO, this was cute, now run a code, laughing face emoji. To which I replied, only if you get through RPD and complete dentures, and people who have been in complete dentures or RPD know that it is not a very fun class. And this person responded, I absolutely hate the mouth, and especially stranger's mouth. I could never, LOL. To which I said, I'll leave the brain and the rest of the neck down to you. You leave the mouth to me. This was a nice interaction with someone from the med community because it acknowledged, hey, there are things that you do, and there are things that I do, and never the two shall meet, you know? I can't imagine what being on call is like. I've heard horror stories of what can happen and what does happen, and that's true. I would not wish that on anybody. Dr. Stark can handle it. So, was this real a rage bait? Of course it was. And I got to see some really funny, some really dumb, some really unhinged comments, but you know what? I'm standing with my reel, and I'm standing with the sentiment that I made in the caption that both med school and dental school are equally as hard. I don't know enough about med school to say whether or not which one is harder, and honestly, I just don't care. I'm far too busy in dental school doing operative, doing RPD, doing endo to care about what the med students are up to. You know, at the end of the day, we're all going to graduate, we're all going to be doctors, and we're all going to be colleagues. So now that I've spilled the tea, it's time to give you guys some food for thought. And I have a couple pieces of food for thought for you guys. One is that you don't have to comment on Instagram Reels that you disagree with, or Instagram posts, or anything that you disagree with. You don't need to make a comment on it. I'm sure that if a med student made the same reel and said if med school was any easier, it'd be called dental school, there would be a bunch of the unhinged dental students in the comments saying, LOL, you're delulu, or it's giving dental school reject vibes. You don't have to comment if you don't agree with it. And if I saw that, I would not comment because, again, I don't care, and I'm far too busy with things to care about commenting. And so, I honestly, though, I would be in the comment section just for the tea and the drama, which is also another reason why I made the reel, because I wanted the tea, I wanted the drama, and I got it. The second thing is that if you're going to comment, have good grammar. What's with all the URs and missing pertinent words in your sentences? Did y'all forget to turn on spell check or something? I don't think Instagram gives you an excuse to have bad grammar. You know what? I love a well-crafted comment. So let's turn back on our spell checks, shall we? Well, I hoped you liked this episode. I hoped you kind of liked the tier thing. That was kind of new for me, but I didn't want to just, read a bunch of comments out, but I kind of wanted to make it fun. So I hope it was fun for you. It was fun for me. It was fun for me to make the reel. It was fun for me to read the comments from the reel. Thank you for watching or listening or wherever you are. And if you have a topic of something that you want me to talk about, please let me know. You can DM me on Instagram or send a carrier pigeon. I will definitely answer the questions for sure. That's all for today. See you all in the next episode.